Howdy, and welcome to the Texas Bucket List, the show dedicated to everything under the sun that you can experience right here in the Lone Star State. You know, after over 100 episodes of the Texas Bucket List, there have been a few things we've checked off the list that have moved on to bigger and better things. That's exactly the case in Kilgore, where the Museum of Broadcasting and Communications has got a fancy new digs that they wanted to show off. So we decided to head that way in a new segment we like to call Checking It Twice. Back in 2015, we met Chuck Conrad, and Chuck is big into broadcasting.
You listen to QXFM 101.9, 105.7, 103.9, and we're sitting here in East Texas having a great time.
Back then, Chuck had his personal collection of communications technology displayed in his Chalk Hill home.
You don't really notice things gathering in your closet until you go to move. That's always one of those critical moments. I think it is for everybody. And you go, I didn't know I had that many socks. Well, I didn't know I had that many TV cameras. So.
The history seen through the lens of these cameras, or told through the ribbon of these microphones, changed our perspective on the world and delivered the latest news back in the day.
Almost everybody watches TV. It's really how several generations have experienced the world. It's really true. It's a repository of Texas history.
Now, these metal and glass purveyors of the past can be found at a new stop on the Texas Bucket List, situated on the streets of downtown Kilgore.
Well, as you can see, we've got a whole new space here in Kilgore. The museum actually owns this building, which is really great, so it'll be here for a long time, unlike some other museums that kind of come and go.
Sure. The Texas Museum of Broadcasting and Communications is now located in an old car dealership that's definitely got a 1950s Art Deco feel to it.
The vintage part kind of fits with what we're doing. The TVs and the TV cameras and stuff all came from the same era when this was showing a Corvette or something in the showroom.
And just about everything, at least the biggest pieces from Chuck's collection, are now here.
The funny thing is, though, if you went to my house, you probably wouldn't think anything's missing, and that's the scary part. We have stuff. I mean, we've got cameras, early black and white cameras, early color cameras. This is one of the very first color cameras. It's one of my favorites. We call it Bertha because it's kind of big. It weighs 340 pounds, and you know, they used to carry these things around to football games and baseball games and stuff. I can't imagine what it was like hauling this thing around. We used a forklift truck to get it up here in this dolly. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Chuck also found a new friend who also had an assortment of antique audio and video devices that are now part of the museum. Warren Willard added his collection of old radios and TVs.
We realized that we both shared the same sickness of collecting weight-enhanced devices.
Being home to such a peculiar collection of particular things sort of bucks the trend in Kilgore. But if you tune in for a time being, it's easy to get lost in the TV history here.
Most people think of Kilgore as the oil museum, maybe, and the Kilgore Rangerettes or something. And we've really upset the dynamic of Kilgore a little bit just by being the Broadcasting and Communications Museum. That's not something that they think of themselves as, but they're beginning to adopt it and think it's pretty cool. So.
No, but I love it because, and it's not just the broadcaster, it's history, it's TV history.
Well, it is, and most of us experienced our history through radio and TV. I mean, for several generations, even before World War II, you know, a lot of the radios we have shortwave on them, and the reason they did was because people were interested in what was going on in the world. They didn't have Facebook or anything like that, so they tuned in the BBC or you know, the Vatican Radio or whatever, Radio Luxembourg. You could get all those things on your shortwave radio back then, and you could get news reports. Sometimes you could even pick up the news feeds that were being sent by Edward R. Murrow or someone like that back to the United States on shortwave for regular broadcast, and you get the news first.
With all this old technology in one place, the museum has become sort of a drop-off point for people looking to donate their past its prime equipment.
It changes almost on a daily basis. In fact, it surprises me how often new stuff just arrives, almost every day.
And the newly renovated 18,000 square foot facility includes a space for Chuck's big old bus that has an interesting connection to Kilgore. Tom Potter, the oil man from this area that put Channel 8 on the air in Dallas, was the original buyer of this massive news van.
We paid $94,000 for it in 1949, which was a bunch of money. He was from Kilgore. He paid a lot of money to put Channel 8 in Dallas on the air. I understand he sold it for not a lot of money too, so in less than a year. I guess they figured radio with pictures wasn't really going to happen, so oops. Yep. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. You know?
While it may not be breaking news, it's definitely the most up-to-date. And that's why the Texas Museum of Broadcasting and Communications is worth checking off twice on the Texas bucket list.
Most people spend an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes more. If they're broadcasters, sometimes it's all day. You know, I mean, because they'll start geeking out at some of the stuff and go, ooh, look, this is a lot different than the last time you saw it.